hair and I'm using a brown colour, but I don't want to use a flat brown. Fluffing my painting. So I'm going to choose no, I can't read my own writing. Van Dyke brown. I'm going to mix in a bit of yellow ochre and maybe a bit of raw umber. Just to make it a bit more ashy, I suppose. And I'm going to do the boy's hair. And adding the yellow ochre is handy because it makes it the same tone as the light in the background, because I had yellow ochre mixed into that. That's another way to make your watercolouring colour palette look cohesive, is to use and mix the same hues into different colours over and over again. And I think I'm going to do the dog in this colour, or at least his spots. So that I have some on the other side of the painting. Bit on his ear, around his mouth. And I'm going to blend that into a darker colour. The reason why I'm doing his nose is because it's the highest up, so it's more likely to be lighter in the spotlight from the lamp. And then I'm going to go with the raw umber colour for the rest of the dog, which is slightly darker, but not a lot. It really depends how much pigment you lay down. And to blend in the colour here, I'm just going to use plain water. Okay. For her hair, I think I'm going to go with the blonde colour. So I'm going to use a colour that's very similar to the light we put in. Very warm. It's not going to be very yellow. I'm going to go over it with a tiny bit of brown, just to make it more ashy and have some depth. I'm just dabbing it. Okay. The other kid, you can't see the hair at all. So now I'm going to pick a dark brown. Burnt umber. And I'm going to do the soles of their shoes. Can all have the same brown. Yeah, that's nice. And I'm going to do the girls' tights in this brown as well. I've got a bit on the background there. Just got a tiny bit of tissue to dab that up. And I'm going to do the buttons that are on her boots. Okay, I think I'm going to do the boys' trousers in this brown as well. When I'm doing watercolouring, I tend to pick up the pigment on my brush, and if I'm not sure how dark and the colour's going to be, because I don't know how much pigment or water is on my brush, I put it in an area where there would be a shadow. So if it is dark, I have lots of space left to blend it out. But on his trousers, most of it's going to be dark anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. And I think I'm going to add a little bit to the doggy, just to give him a little bit of depth, because he looks quite flat at the moment. And I left a little white space on his ear because I want to put in pink. Okay, let's add a bit of water now to blend. That's better. And now his tummy. Next I'm going to use a grey, and I'm probably going to do Payne's grey. Yeah, Payne's grey, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in. I thought it was that one. Sometimes the colours on the palettes look so similar that you have to literally count like I just did. So I'm going to do the lamppost in grey. I like Payne's grey because it's got a blue tone to it, so it's not a flat grey colour, and it makes a really nice black when it's very pigmented. It's like an almost black. It just has a really rich colour to it. It's very nice. God, these images are fiddly to paint. I think the key to doing small areas is not to have too much water on your brush. Your brush. You can always dab it off on some tissue if you need help controlling how much you have. So pretty. I love this image, even though it is difficult. I'm going a bit darker underneath because they would naturally be less light there, because the light is facing upwards and radiating out. And likewise on the top, it would be darker here as there is a crevice, but it's likely to get brighter as it goes up. And then to bring in this colour again in the image, I'm going to colour the boy's boots. And I'm going to get the girl at the front legs. Actually, I'm going to go over the brown tights on this one because black is a better tight colour. Anyway, put too much pigment on for my liking, so I'm going to rinse my brush off. And I'm just going to spread out the pigment that I've already got on the image. It gives me my shadow at the same time then. Which is great. I get a 2 for 1. Cool. Okay. I think I'm going to use it on the doggy's nose as well, just to bring some over this side. And I'm going to dilute it down lots and lots. So it's almost barely there. And I'm going to use it as the shadow on the ground. Because I want it to be snow on the ground, so I don't want it to look grey, but I do want it to look like shadow. where they're standing. And if I'm worried that it's going to get too grey, I can just use some clean water and blend it out, and it will soften it a lot. Which is great. I'm being really careful around their legs and their shoes that I've just done, because I don't want it to bleed, but I'm not too worried because it's the exact same colour, it's just a darker version of it. So it's not the end of the world. Okay. You could probably hardly see that on camera, but I can see it. And I'm also going to use it on their music sheets, and I'm going to hit underneath their hands and on the bottom, and I'm going to make a faux crease in the middle of this one because it looks like it's creased where she's holding it, and I'm going to copy the same for the others. But I'm going to do a less pronounced crease on this one. And the girl that is on the left pretty much has most of hers in shade because she's standing behind the other kid, which is fine. And I've just noticed that the middle kid's hat goes behind, goes over here. So once that is dry, I will go over it with some red. Okay, I'm also going to use this grey, Payne's grey, very diluted, to add texture to their hats. I'm just doing dabbing to make it look like fur, and I'm not going to do it everywhere, just where there's going to be little bits of fur that might be in shadow. I would say on average it takes me about an hour to colour an image to the point where I'm happy with it, and then I'll probably tinker with it some more after that. Be interested to know how long it takes you. I feel like I'm quite slow, but I enjoy it, so I don't really care how long it takes me, to be honest. Yeah, it just is what it is. Okay, I'm gonna give the dog a bit of pink in his ear, and I'm gonna use quite a reddy pink and water it down. So I'm probably gonna go with the rose madder because I added that into the red of the jacket, and so I think that it will blend nicely. And I'm just going to use it on her cheeks a little bit too, and probably dab it off. If it looks too bright. Yeah. And the little doggy can have some blusher too, why not? Remember, it would be cold, so they're going to have pink cheeks from being out in the cold. And then I think I need to work on the background next, which is going to be tricky. Probably should have done that first. But ho-hum. I'm going to use a flat brush and probably Payne's Grey to start with. And I'm going to go darkest at the ground. And work my way up. I'm not the best at backgrounds, to be honest. Yeah, I'm just not. I get too impatient. Okay. I'm going to overlap the grey colour with the lighting. Especially around the edge. So that it looks like the light is dissipating into the darkness, which it would be doing if it was real life. Oh, that's not the camera, sorry. I knew I was in a bit of danger of doing that today because I put the camera so close. And if you lay down some colour and it looks too dark, try not to panic. You can move the pigment. Right, I'm going to leave the ground white and assume that there's snow, and then I'll probably use a white gel pen later on to add snow to my image. And if at any point you find that your colours look like they're merging together, stop and wait for it to dry. And if you want to merge a dry colour with a wet colour, clear water is really helpful. Okay, add a bit of darkness around the edges if I can. And I'm just going to build up my layers of colour. Until I get a contrast that I'm happy with. And even though this is wet, I am using circular motions around the lamp in case I get any brush strokes left after. Oh, I've got a bit of pink there for some reason. That's frustrating. Must have been on my palette and I didn't realise. Pretty terrible about cleaning my watercolour palette. It's because I tend to find that I make colours that I really like, so I want to leave them on the palette so that I can have a reference for remixing them. So, and also I hate the idea of wasting paint, so if I leave it there I can use it again. Now, the gap that is in between the little people, the characters in the picture, is going to be darker because that's got the most shadow. I'll swap to a smaller brush for, but I don't want it to be completely dark. Otherwise it'll blend in with the lamppost because we're using the same colour but diluted. And I'm also going to use this to touch up the edges around the people where my other brush was too big. But it's important to use a bigger brush when you're doing background washes, otherwise it looks very streaky. With this, is looking good. And the other good thing about going around the people with the shadow is that they would naturally cast a shadow themselves in the shape of their bodies. So just makes it a bit more realistic to add it in. Although I'm fanning it out towards the top because they're right under the light. Okay. Cool. I think I'm going to go back and add some more shadow underneath now, because in contrast the shadow underneath is pretty much disappeared. Trying to get in between the dog's legs. It's so tiny. It's important to make sure that the shadow reflection of the snow is lighter than the background sky, because the light is reflecting off white. Even though it's in shadow, it's relative. Whereas the sky is quite likely to have dark blue in it. In fact, I'm going to go and add a dark blue wash to it, just to add a bit of depth to the night sky. Just around the edges, because otherwise if I mix too much blue into where the sun is, it will go, the lamp, it will go green, which I absolutely don't want to happen, which is why I chose the grey. But there's no reason why I can't have some blue in the background. You could even drop in some purple if you're feeling brave. It'll also help differentiate the ground shadows from the sky shadows. And again, I want to keep the purple away from the yellow, because purple and yellow is probably going to be brown. Whatever it is, it's not going to be pretty. Okay. And then I'm just going to use some clean water to make my edges a bit more natural. And then I'll see how this dries, and I can always go in tomorrow and fix up the yellow. But for now, that is my picture. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll let you know if I tweak it or do anything else. Thank you for bearing with me with this very long video. And I'm gonna go to bed now. Because it's like 10 o'clock. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye!